Hey, Simone here, and with this video I would like to show you a step-by-step approach to create an automation to update project statuses automatically to done when all the tasks related to a project are completed. And to do this, we will use automate.io. And so first of all, we're gonna go to Notion and check out what I have set up here. Two sample databases, one for projects and one for tasks, as you can see here behind my face. So the project database is a demo project, so I didn't include any difficult or unnecessary properties, but just the key properties necessary to make the automation work. But usually this is how you organize a project in Notion. There's going to be a status property. In this case, I just include planned, in progress, and done. And you can have as many statuses as you wish, but you just need to understand the structure of these properties. They are the foundation behind the automation that we will set up. And so you can see that there is a progress bar automatically updated based on the tasks completed. And this is the progress percentage that is just here as a backend property to make the progress bar work smoothly. And besides the project demo database, we also have a tasks demo database. And so tasks as well have statuses. So this might not be the case necessarily. If you just want checkboxes for tasks, that's okay too. And you can see that here, I also included a checkbox done, but it is not a manual checkbox. As you can see from the icon here, this is a formula. And so this checkbox gets checked automatically when the status of a task is done, as you can see right here. And so the reason for which I included both the checkbox, this time automatic checkbox, and the status is that having a status property for the tasks allows us to view tasks in a Kanban board view, which I find in my experience very useful, especially for teams to collaborate on projects and tasks. Besides the status property, there's also the project relation, and in this example, all of the tasks that you can see here on the page are related to the sample project. There's a done checkbox that is only included here as a formula because we're going to use this in the automation. And so working with a checkbox is much more convenient, as far as I can tell, as opposed to only having statuses when it comes to automating things. And there is also a last updated automatic property that outputs the date in which this task was last updated, or any property of this task. And so that's basically the sandbox, the structure that we're going to use to create the automation. And so these are the key properties, the crucial properties that will allow us to make the automation work. On top of those properties, you can have as many additional properties as you want, but they're not going to be very useful for the sake of this example. So now let's go to automate.io. And here we can see that I have the automation already set up because there are many steps, so that we're going to go through each of these steps and analyze them accurately without room for mistakes along the way. So the first step on automate.io, and in any automation tool for that matter, is a trigger. And the trigger is the event that makes the automation start and that triggers the subsequent actions included here. And the trigger in this particular event, so let's not forget, our goal here is to automatically update the status of a project to done when the progress is 100%. And you can see that the progress bar of the project here updates itself automatically based on the tasks completed, just like so. And so what we want to achieve with the automation is, we want to say, when the progress bar is at 100%, make sure to change the status of the project from in progress to done. Now, first off, we have the trigger, and the trigger here is updated database item, this one right here. And the reason for this is that we want to look for updated tasks. And in particular, when a task status changes to done, we want to look for the related project, check out the status of that project, and the progress bar in particular. Because if the progress of that project is 100%, then it means that the status is done. And so this is what we set up here. So when you see an updated database item, in which database? Well, this is going to be the tasks database here, the demo in my case. And that's all for the trigger. Here you see the output fields, which are the properties that you can see in the tasks database. The second step will be the first action. So when there is an updated task, what do we want to happen in Notion? In our case, the first thing we want to do is we want to search for a database item. And that's this option right here. So search for a database item, in particular, search for a database item in the projects database that you can choose from the drop-down menu here. And make sure that you allow access to automate.io here on your databases. If they are on a single page, then you can just allow automate.io access to that master page. Otherwise, make sure to open the master databases and allow access to automate.io from there. Else, they will not appear on the drop-down menu here. And so we have said that the first action is to search for a database item in the projects database, and in particular, what database item do we want to look for? And so here is the ID of the item that we want to pull from the tasks that we looked for before in the first step. And in this case, what we want to look for is we want to look for the project property here, because that's the relation of the tasks to the project. And so when a task is updated, look for the related project. Sometimes tasks may not have projects related to them. And that means that once the trigger is activated, but the second action doesn't find any database item or project related to the task, it's going to stop. And so here, then, we have the output fields. Next up, we'll need to play with two different filters. The first filter is pretty straightforward, and it says continue only if found equals yes. So this means that only continue this automation if you found a project related to the task. Otherwise, stop the automation. We don't need to update the status. The second filter is, so once the found filter is passed, so if the project is found, then let's go to the second filter. Continue only if the progress page property, which I pulled from here, so you can just click on the plus icon, and then there are going to be these properties from the previous step, and you can just choose the progress here, page property progress, contains, and this ignores case string, is generally speaking useful for text type properties, and the second parameter says 100. So what this filter determines is it says only continue this automation if the progress of the project related to the updated task is 100%. So if that's the case, the pipeline has passed through the filters, which means we'll go to the final stage. Update the database item. Update the project status to be done. And so here we're going to choose Notion. We're going to choose the update database item option here. And then we choose which database we want to update the item in. And that's going to be the projects database in my case. And here we're going to choose use custom value. And for the page item ID, we're going to click on the plus icon and we're going to choose item ID right here of the project that we want to update. And finally, on the status property, we will choose done. And all the other properties, they can remain empty because they are already filled in your Notion database. And so we don't need to update them unless you want to, of course. And so in this case, once you have set up this entire automation, you can click on save and test it and then activate it. But I will not do it right now because I do not have a paid automate.io plan. Indeed, because this automation contains multiple steps, we need a paid automate.io plan, which I do not have at the moment. So I'm not going to demonstrate this, but you can just trust me in my integrity, because this is a case study, or this idea came from a case study that I applied with a client of mine in my Notion consulting practice. And so we did these steps to create this automation for projects and tasks, and it works very well. So that's the caveat here. I can't show you this automation live, which is a bit of a negative thing here for the sake of this video, but that's okay. The automation works because I tested it in a real life scenario. And with that being said, another thing that is worth mentioning is that you can also create another automation to make sure that if the status of a project is done, let's say, but you add a new task. So let's say that the progress bar is 100%, and so the project is moved to done by the automation. But what if you now add a new task whose status might be to do and that is related to that project? Now the progress bar will be, boom, 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 let's wait for it, 80%. There you go. And so that means that this project is not done anymore. And so we can create an automation to sort of check for this, and when this happens, we can reverse the status of a project to in progress. And really, the rationale behind the working of this type of automation is very similar to this one, to change the status of a project to, instead of done in the second scenario, to doing. And so the steps are pretty much the same. And for this video, I'm not going to show you that because the rationale is the same. And so it can be easily implemented if you understand how this automation works in terms of the steps implied in it. And that is it. Thank you and take care.